This meeting is being live streamed.
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, so let's see. Okay, setting up your meeting for Facebook Live. Okay, let's see. Oh, and now it takes us straight here. Do you see that? No,
No, I don't care.
no, that's fine. I just need to be.
I don't want to be totally distracted.
No, also it's in delay. Okay, so let's
The
see.
fact that I'm finding this lovely, wonderfully
See.
mysterious.
Okay, setting up. Sorry. Sorry, it's the first time I'm doing it, so I didn't know what I'm supposed to do. So, okay, hi, Win, officially.
Hi, officially.
Yes,
Everything we said earlier is off the record.
it's off the record. And now, because I'll just say hi to anyone who's maybe here already, I'll just grab my phone so I can check in the group if there are any comments so we can actually interact with people. Oops. Yeah. Just a second, I forgot. I got carried away speaking to you. I forgot to set this up. Okay. Okay, there are a couple of people watching already. So,
Hello?
wow, there are 2 people there. But I need to turn, okay, I'm learning things as we're going along. This is what I like, problem solving. You solve it as you go along. So I have my phone with this thing. I put it on mute, like on silent, so I don't hear myself. But we can see the comments. Yeah, so Elise says hi. Oh, that's cool. And she says, hi, Orit, hi, Win. And Marlene says hi.
Hi.
So we have 2 people already, which is really cool.
Hi.
It's nice because we talked just before a meeting about energy and feeling tired. And the thing is, I wasn't that nervous anymore because I know that once you're there and there are people, you just get into a different energy, which is kind of cool. Okay, so I'll just have to learn how to keep my mind there. And I see it generates captions also in English. I hope it transcribes as well.
The Zoom one's actually, I'm surprised how good the Zoom one is. I don't know about the Facebook one.
Since I'm not a native English speaker, I'm sure that some words are just like, okay. Oh, and Elise says her son is also watching.
Oh, great. So that's 3.
Yeah, so that's actually 3.
To your son.
That's funny. So, how do we do that? Like, do I start by, I'll just officially start this. I'm still getting used to doing this stuff. Okay, so welcome to the Problem Solving Agency. I think it's the first time I managed to say it without, chewing my tongue or something, which is the kind of space I invented because it's something that I always wanted to, a space where people can come and say what seems like a problem for them. And then maybe I can help them with that. And so I guess I'm the CEO and founder, which makes me also laugh to just think about that. And today with me, I have Win Morgan, which is a super coach, who I met exactly 3 years ago, probably to the day, or like 2
Not
days.
far off. It was this week. It was the end of October, early November. Yeah.
It was the first.
The 2nd of November was the Friday of that week.
Okay, so it's exactly 3 years since we met for the first time. And it's also exactly 2 years since you were here in Berlin.
It was.
It was also the beginning of November, and we just walked around for 3 days and had a lot of coffee and watched the fall and walked around, and it was really great.
It was lovely. Yeah, really was a lovely 3 days. You know what? I was thinking of this last night. I was washing the dishes last night and knowing that you and I would talk today. I'm thinking, what do I remember about our time together in Berlin, as well as the insights that I think happened on the afternoon of maybe day 2. I remember you went.
That's what I thought.
And what I remember just before that as well, I found myself in Berlin in a vegan Vietnamese restaurant. And it was amazing food.
It was really good.
And then the other thing that I remember, a different food orientated shop, was the Apple shop. Not Apple as in devices, but literally eat apples. How many different types of apples were in this one shop? And it was just like, just amazing memories of Berlin.
I'm not even sure they had that many types of apples. I've been there since then, but they have a really nice one, which is red, pink red on the inside. And also just the smell was so lovely.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
So I'll just say something else about you, like for people who might listen to this now. And by the way, if anyone is joining us now, and I see there's a third person, so just feel free to say hi and where you're from, so we all know. Also, if you're watching in the recording, because I always go and check these things out later to see if anyone commented. So I'll just say about Win that you're a business coach and a personal coach and a mentor coach, and like a coach for human beings, I would say. And for me, I think I wrote it somewhere this week. When I think about you, I think of someone who helped me to bring me back to simplicity. And this is what you referred to, I think, when you said the second afternoon when we walked around and we sat in a cafe, or I don't remember anymore, but I was really in my, and there was this moment of, it can just be simple.
It was at lunch in that vegan Vietnamese restaurant. I remember where we were.
Yeah, but then I spun off once again afterwards.
It happens.
Yeah. Let's see if there are any more comments, or I'm still learning how to do this. Okay. So, oh yeah, Marlene says, yeah, the CEO and founder and heart of the PSA. Great. Okay, I'll try and keep the comments here in view, because I'm used to having them on the screen while doing the face, because I'm such an expert in doing Facebook Lives. I've done like 5 of them already. Yes, so simplicity. I think something that I always liked also in our conversations is to feel someone that can really understand me, probably, and who can give me a really good example of someone who is still, with everything that he's learned over his life, he still experiences his feelings and thoughts and everything. And does all kinds of crazy things, or thinks all kinds of crazy things. And when we had our meetings, I think it was really fun for me to just kind of exchange like all these really stupid things that we get to think and feel. And it's really nice to not be alone with these things and to see that everyone has this as well.
It's really, I remember when I noticed that, I was so relieved to realize that everything I thought was normal, not, it didn't define me as weird, it defined me as a human. It made me the same as everyone else, not different from. But also, there was a part of that that I didn't like, because I didn't want to be the same. I wanted to be special. And I still do.
I always had
I
this
then
too.
remember, wait a minute. Yeah, but the fact that you want to be special is the same. That's kind of universally true for human beings. And it was just like, oh, such a relief of realizing that how everything I've thought and felt is just an example of a human being going through life, as opposed to me messing up or something wrong with me. Because I did think that. I did think there was something wrong with me.
Yeah, so I guess because in this talk, as I defined it, Isa is also here. Hi, Isa.
Hi.
There are already a few people. I'm so excited. It's really exciting that people come and say hi, and that they take the time to spend time with you in this way.
It's cool.
And you can be sitting at home, but kind of being with more people in the same space, I find it really amazing. It's kind of mind-blowing. So yes. So as I defined it, I think in some of the posts I've written about it, was like when your inner climate goes dark. Because as we said, it's like there's this thing about being very human and going through this human experience. But still, you can say that some people, their human experience, their inner climate tends to go to maybe more drama And some people have like more inner climate that goes into more storms and stress, and some people are much kind of cooler, and maybe it's more Caribbean. I don't know. And I think the thing I could really identify with you about, and when I heard you speaking about this, even before I met you for the first time, it was when I say darker inner climate, I kind of mean some people would call it depression or depressive thoughts, lower quality thoughts. There are all these different words, and I don't want to just label it as depression because it feels kind of limiting. And I don't think I was ever diagnosed with depression. I was at some point in my life diagnosed with a general anxiety disorder, ADHD, whatever. It's a lot of symptoms that come together. And usually I think when it's kind of too much overload with too much thinking, for me at the end, it was just like a lot of overthinking and very sped up thinking. Then it's like everything shut down and it goes into more depression.
Yeah.
Or just feeling like, yes. And I heard you speaking about it a few years ago in all kinds of ways, and when we spoke together, and I could really find a lot of solace in that. And just seeing how someone, still not being able, but going through phases of darker, I would say, inner climate. And it's important for me to say inner climate, because what I learned the last few years was, in contrast to how I thought about it when I was younger, that it was, I'm depressed or I feel this way because of all kinds of things going on, or even because of me being this way, which is still was a bit like attributing this to something external. And even when I'm talking about it now, I can't say that I'm completely kind of like 100% sure of saying what's going on there. This mixture of like knowing already that I feel my thoughts. So of course, is it a habit? Like, am I used to just from a young age, maybe to think darker thoughts in a way and then feeling darker, Or is it also brain chemistry? Is it one causing the other? Is it a mixture of everything? Does it even matter? So these are all kinds of things that I wanted to kind of bring up. And we'll later also go over some questions that some people sent us, and we looked at them also before. So in this way, it's almost like we put like a destination on our Google Maps things. So maybe it will be answered even if we don't say them again.
Cool. Well, do you think it'd be worthwhile if I shared a few things?
Yeah, that will be great. And I'll just, sorry if I'm once in a while, I'm just looking to see if someone says something. I'll just go and see that I'm still practicing.
If it looks like you're ignoring me, I won't take it personally. No, it's fine.
Right. I'm used to kind of talking. What's that?
I know you're not ignoring me, so you're fine.
No. I'm used to looking at the camera, doing these things, going at the comments, but now suddenly there's also someone else, to take into account. So let's look at the comments. So Yara also says hi, and Leo also says hi. It really makes things come out. Well, I didn't see it in real time, so I'm not sure what she's talking about, but I'll figure it out later. Yara, I'm cooking and listening. That's great. Alice says, I love what you shared about your experience, Win. That insight is also what made a massive difference for me. We're all the same. Interacting with others from the place of we're all the same is a game changer. And Elise says, you keep it so real, Orit. Your vulnerability and honesty is beautiful. Well, thanks, Elise.
Very true. Very true about you. So I had bouts of depression, so periods of depression since I can remember, since I was very, very young. Well, maybe 3, I can remember, 3 years old, which is kind of young to be that seriously minded. Anyway, various bouts, and I think one of the worst ones was when I was the summer I turned 19, or maybe when I was 19 turning 20. I had a really tough few months, and that I think was the first time that other people noticed that I was depressed. And anyway, it kind of faded, as bouts of the periods of depression tend to do. not as quickly as I'd have wished it to. I always wanted to go quicker. And then I had another spell in my mid 20s, and then probably late 20. Yeah, I do remember one of them, late 20s. And then I had a relationship breakup in my early to mid 30s, and that really took me to the darkest place I'd been in my own mental well-being. Um, and I went to a therapist that I found, and I noticed that after about a month of working with that therapist, I actually felt worse. But I didn't know why, and I thought I was still going to go and everything. And it was just interesting to me. And and I then went to the doctor, and the doctor said, "Yeah, you seem like you're depressed. Let me prescribe you with something." And as soon as he said prescribe me with something, I felt all this shame, and I only told one person. At that point, my closest friend at that time, I told her and all the shame and stuff like that. She goes, What do you mean shame? I've been on antidepressants for 10 years. I said, really? Yeah. Just don't talk about it much, but yeah, crikey, what are you ashamed about? And I took the first antidepressant that evening with her there. And she said, yeah, okay, feel fine. And then was prescribed some other stuff, some probably better, more modern things. So at one point, then I was on antidepressants, mood stabilizers, and sleeping tablets because I'd been an insomniac for a year and a half and would barely sleep an hour a night. I averaged less than an hour a night of sleep for a year and a half. So I was pretty fried at that point.
And at the same time, you were also working a lot, right?
Yeah,
Or not so
I
much?
was
Yeah.
working. I was delivering training in companies at that point and was still doing it, but I would sometimes turn up late. And my boss in that company noticed, and at some points he was getting really angry, but then he thought something's going on because this is not like Win. And he realized I've read up about depression, Win. You might want to look at it. So he gave me another nudge to go and talk to the doctor. So good on him. So I was still doing a lot, but I was fried, internally fried. I was eating my head off, as someone would say. Um,
I'll just say that I told Win just before we started talking about how I fried my
yeah,
head in the summer, and that in Hebrew we say "לאכול את הראש." It means to eat your head up. So
yeah. But I didn't know that was happening. That's what was up with me. Anyway, you know, I kind of managed to get through with a lot of help and some very patient people in my life, and including in that was 3 weeks in a clinic, a really lovely clinic, um, and met some really nice people there. There are some of them are still friends. But anyway, what I was then diagnosed in inverted commas with is something that was then called cyclothymia, which is now called bipolar 2, which is you get the bouts of depression in life, but you don't get so much of the
yeah.
hypers, right? Although there's a lot of the behavioral traits that someone would have in that way as well. So it wasn't like complete that. It was
You do
just like,
feel, I know some people were diagnosed with that and they have this feeling of being enlightened or something, or like really high on something. Not that
yeah,
we have that.
it is like that when hyper, but I don't have those massive highs. I have some of the traits, but not all of them on that one, but certainly the lows. Anyway, I then had another bout of depression, and I think it was spring of 2008 or 9 or 2009. And it went. I'm going to turn over to this side, right? Because in the corner of this room is where I keep my flip chart in my office at home. And on that flip chart, um, which I can't turn the computer around just because of the way that it's.
And that side is where we keep our matching Sansevierias.
And this was inspired by you at late September, early October of last year. So I thought, I like that plant. I'm going to get one. And here it is. And it's grown quite a lot since then. But in
Yeah.
that corner, there's a flip chart. And I'll read out what it says. Woke up on May the 22nd, and this was 2008, 2009, in the best mood for 18 days. I was really depressed for the previous 17, 18 days. And it says, yesterday I did these things, right? And I've written it up on a flip chart. Productive, mentally stimulated. I was proud of what I did in my job that day while I was depressed. And it was a Monday, I remember that as well. Added something to others, which is underlined. Ate healthily. I had sliced fresh tomatoes with salt, pepper, and mozzarella cheese, I think, for dinner. I remember that too. Connected with people, and then did something in line with my values. All written up on that flip chart because at that point I thought that was the reason for my depression having lifted. That's what I thought.
Okay. So that was this. Okay, you thought it was because of that, not that you felt better, so you did all this.
So what was it that made the difference? Now I know that none of that had anything to do with it. What I did on the Monday and then I wrote up about on Tuesday had nothing to do with my mood lifting on the Tuesday. But I didn't know that then, which is why I made the list of, right, I'm going to copy all. The answer is fresh tomatoes, sliced fresh tomatoes with salt, pepper, and mozzarella cheese. That will make sure I never get depressed again. I'm not kidding. I used to think all of that stuff would be absolutely true. I now know that literally what happens with moods is that they lift. There's no rhyme, no reason other than moods lift. They're not externally nor internally by eating determined. That's not the cause of how I will feel moment by moment. My moment by moment feeling on my mood is determined by the relationship of what's going on in my head. And what's going on in my head will then have the relationship with what's going on in my head, relationship with my own thinking, that determines my serotonin. That determines my all the other happy or sad hormones. And I'm not an expert in that, right?
Can I just go back to this point? I just want to make sure I got it. Because also I think when I'm in these situations, I try to concentrate and then I'm not sure that I actually was concentrating.
Sure.
But I think it was an important point, so I want to ask. So you said, you think what determines, well, of course, it's not because of these things. I know very well how it is to try and calculate all the time. Like, what was the formula?
Yes.
I worked really well today because last night I got that amount of sleep, so I'll try to recreate it again. And then another day you only sleep 4 hours and you function really well and you think, oh, I'll try and recreate that. That doesn't work. Okay, and then you said, yeah, you realize it's not that, but that it's the relationship too.
Yeah, the relationship to what I think. But I didn't know that for probably 5 years after I wrote that list. I didn't know that. And I frequently forget that now. I will often forget that now because I will often, when I'm feeling bad, try to do things that will make me feel better. And sometimes they work and sometimes they don't, which means that it's not the thing. It's not the formula to exactly what you just said, because if it was the formula, it would work all the time in the same way, and it doesn't. So it can't be that. So I've got to go back to what I was just talking about regarding the hormones. So it's interesting that how we feel, our moment by moment emotions change more frequently than our hormone level changes.
Okay.
Which means that the hormone level cannot be the cause. So if hormones are level and then I feel this can't be caused by something that is more consistent. Can't be. It defies any kind of reasoning. It does not stand up to scrutiny. But what I do know from people who have mentored me and understanding how the mind really works is that the hormones are affected by the relationship with my thinking. Or another way of saying it is that hormones aren't the cause, they're the result. We've got it the wrong way around. And it's not to say don't take supplements, don't take medication. I'm all for it if it helps. If it helps, fine. You and I were joking earlier on about the fact that, well, I felt a little tired at hour while I was deciding what hot drink to have. And I thought, I'm a little tired, so I'm going to have coffee. To me, that's no different from taking anything else. No different whatsoever. Because I think, oh, coffee would be helpful. Let me take that. I don't
Oh,
want to judge myself for that. And I did when it came to antidepressants. But it's the same thing. I
just
think it's a good idea. Sorry, go on.
sorry, just maybe I'm too diligent. There's a comment. I just noticed it popped up. Isa asks, Win, and what about women and menopause mental dramas?
Yeah.
I
So
actually have something to say about this.
you go ahead. You're far more qualified than me when it comes to women's dramas and menopause.
No, I can't talk too much about hormones. I can refer also to some women that I know who work in this understanding and talk about menopause and perimenopause and about hormones. But what's really clear to me is first seeing how, first, yes, sometimes you just know that these hormones kick in because suddenly something from your kid or whatever that could be really innocent another day that you would do nothing about suddenly feels like you just want to murder them or something. It just feels kind of like metal sharp feeling. You don't, until you catch yourself, you don't even notice how unproportional that is. And it helps to see that in a way. At the same time, I do see. Like, I remember that one time when I had my PMS, I didn't sleep well. I woke up feeling like I was hit by a truck, feeling so disoriented. And I went to the cafe where you and I also met when you were here, and I met a client. And I just got into the conversation with her, and I just totally forgot that I'm supposed to feel like a train wreck or a bus or a truck wreck or whatever. Maybe at a certain point it came back, like when I was out of the conversation, but for an hour or two, I kind of completely forgot about that. And that happens all the time. And that also has all the connection with even getting things done and feeling moments of light when you're feeling really down.
So here's a question then. What have you made of the fact that even when you're feeling that way and hormones are going crazy, that you can be fine?
Um, yeah, what comes to me now is just like this image, even of this thing, moods or moment after moment thing. It keeps on going up and down. It's almost like we have different kinds of waves going on at the same time. So maybe there's this general wave of up and down, but then there are also the small ones. But especially when I just let myself either direct my attention somewhere else, or because I have to, I let also, it was also maybe I allowed myself to be there with my client.
Yeah.
When I work now, in contrast to the past, even on days when I feel really bad and like, what am I doing it for? Like, no, and having all these like, I don't know if it's working, whatever. And in the past, maybe I would say, okay, I'm not going to do anything today. Like, it's not worth it, or I can't even start. You just distract yourself with other things and feel bad. Maybe you'll do something later, but you have all these things about it. And right now it's not, it's like, yeah, but my capabilities and my abilities haven't changed.
Yeah.
Just because I'm feeling this way. I kind of know already that if I just, in that one moment, give myself the permission, I will allow myself to just turn my attention to something else, there is a good chance that I'll feel totally different.
Yeah.
Also.
Which to me, and I think that's a lovely description of it, it shows that even when we have things going on, such as moods and hormones and um, menopausal, premenopausal, PMS, whatever's going on with us, that there are times when that has less impact on us than others. And if that's true, then those hormones and that time, even that moment of biology, does not determine our ability to do something, or our ability to focus, or our ability to find something funny, or our ability to be present with a client, exactly in your example. I think that's a wonderful thing to notice.
look, I see there were some comments, so let's see what people say, because maybe it will help also. Okay, Marlena says, mental dramas, what are you talking about? Yeah, with,
Touch of irony. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm in that camp too.
Yeah. And then she says, interestingly, there are other cultures where women don't experience symptoms as strong as women in our society do. I think it has, yeah, I think that's also because also processed foods and our environment, I think that's also an effect. Like,
Yeah, but
still,
also, yeah.
oh, but it's just, yeah, it's just like people, the relationship with growing old, or with, I don't know, they have the right, a different attitude. So it makes everything different. Yeah, Alice says, I went through numerous rounds of IVF and I wasn't affected by the meds emotionally. Physically, yes, but not emotionally. But I was told I would be a mess, but I saw I didn't have to. Oh, that's amazing. That's
Wow.
really good. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. And then Isa says, can we agree that hormones have an impact on our bodies, but the consequences don't have to be believing our negative shit? Yeah.
I'd love you to write a book about that, because that sounds like a great title.
Isa did write a book recently. She's probably writing another one, so I think she has a third coming. Right, Isa? I'm talking to the phone like she's there. But it is amazing sometimes that, for me, a lot has shifted from knowing that how I feel in this moment doesn't mean anything about my, how I'll feel in 1 minute, 5 minutes, whatever. So it's kind of like, okay, maybe I have a season that generally I can define as lower mood, more sadness, more grief. I don't know, because I think in the past 2 years it also it became more of a spectrum. I allowed it to feel more a spectrum of things. Before, maybe it would be kind of anger, anxiety, and depression. Now I see a lot of also grief and sadness for all kinds of things that I feel. And actually, these kind of emotions, they also open the door to a lot of connection and love. Although sometimes it's really overwhelming. And even though there's that, just the fact that I know that underneath it, there's all the other things, the good, the nicer feelings, that they are there, and that any moment there's a chance of something else. First, it's just easier to let go of this, what do you call it, tug of war, or this, it's not a cable, what is it? Rope, yeah. The word in German came. So it's easier to let go of that and to just allow myself to go and do something else, because what I feel now doesn't have to affect what I'll do. I know that it doesn't affect my abilities and my capabilities. They haven't changed since I felt okay or good. And there's a much better chance that I'll just, have some really nice moments. And actually, I see also that as I allow myself that more, it gains kind of a momentum. Then also the percentage. Maybe it sounds strange to say the percentage of thoughts, feelings change.
Because I remember a day, and this was noteworthy to me. I think it was during September, so less than a few months ago, right? Within the last 2 months. And I woke up, and very quickly I went into a really low mood. And I went, well, today's going to suck. And I thought, I don't have to believe that. And I got up. That day was pretty good. My mood didn't last. And I also remember I watched a TV program. I think it's called Love Story or something like that. A client recommended I watch it because it was a great way of describing love and connection. And it was a dramatization based upon letters sent into the New York Times. And I think it's either on Amazon Prime or Netflix. And they had someone bipolar on it as a character, and it was kind of dramatized a bit with the up and down thing. I went, I don't do that way. I don't do the way that this character went down. And it was really weird because the next day I did. And that was a Sunday, and I went, why do I feel so bad? It's just like it took about 45 minutes for my mood to drop like a stone, right? Boom, down. I went, oh, it is the same as that person had it right in that writing and the dramatization of it. And what was equally as wonderful to notice, well, actually more wonderful to notice. By the Monday, I was fine. I don't know I'd have done it. I don't know 10 years ago whether I'd have had the same thing. Because I think on that Sunday, my 10-year ago version of me would have thought more about the mood, made it more real, had a totally different relationship with what I was thinking, and would have eaten my head off.
Yeah, you just hold on to it until, okay, there were some comments, so I'll just go and read them and see what's there. Okay, so yeah, Elise said before, I love everything you're both sharing. Thank you so much for being so open. And she agrees with Isa about the hormones having an impact, a physical impact, but that we can have a different relationship.
Yeah.
And she says also, I see how we don't have to be ashamed about our past or feelings. We didn't know then, but we do now. Yeah, like this shame part is so big. Like you go through life feeling so much shame, so you can't even speak about it and know that everyone feels this.
It's really true, right? And in my life, I'm so privileged to hear everyone's shame secrets. And then I realize that's something shameworthy. Are you nuts? Because it's just like there's nothing that I've heard yet that would make me go, oh my Lord, I'd never want to be your friend. Not once have I thought that about someone's biggest shame story. Not once.
Yeah, right. We're so afraid, but then at the end, they just hug us and love us, right?
Yeah.
Marlena says, the word depression is a nice shortcut for our brain. Sadness, depression. Tiredness, depression. Regret, depression. It wants to have everything stored, so it does. Even if what's going on has nothing to do with depression. And Isa says, question for Win. How dealing with people that are blaming us repeatedly for being unhappy? Yeah, about how to deal with that. Like relatives, I can also, I think we can all relate to that. People either maybe expecting us to do something different about how we feel. I know I can really identify that from both sides. Like when my husband, for example, was going through, some phases of feeling lower, and I felt it affect also on me. So I wanted him to be different, or maybe feeling that he should do things differently so he's not like that. Or also from his side, like when he might have told me on different occasions, oh, you should do that, or why don't you take medications, or why don't you do that, or
Yeah. Well, two things to that is that I'd want to see their innocence, that they're only saying what they think because what they think is true. Point one. So it looks to them as if I might be the cause of their misery. Oh, I wonder how that happens. But I don't want to blame them either. That's why I want to see their innocence. Now, the first couple I ever worked with, married couple, came for counseling because they wanted to stay together because they had a child. As soon as they started learning how the mind really works and the inside out nature of life, as opposed to we don't feel the outside, we feel things from here outwards. One of them would say to each other, oh, that's just your thinking. And the only thing that would do would give them a further rift. It would just get them more and more angry with each other. So one thing not to do is to say, oh, that's just your thinking. It's not me. Because that just makes it worse. The other thing is that, well, what's the opposite of that? Love. So if your question is, what do I do? I'd find ways to love them more. Would be my start. Now, I don't know how that will play out, but I do know that that can never be wrong. And at some point, when we're in the place of loving them, we might hear something and they might feel something regarding our total unconditional love towards them. And they might just start to feel something different too, because it's really difficult to stay in a low state of mind when someone else is just showing love to us. You can battle for a while, but it doesn't last. Eventually, the intellect kind of like quits and goes, okay, this is love. I'm going to drop out of this. And then you might have a really lovely conversation about what it is that looks to them that is in our behavior or our nature that is annoying them so much or causing them this misery. But we could see that neutrally as opposed to either us taking blame for how they feel or them taking blame for the fact that it looks to them like it's us causing their bad feeling.
Yeah, I can personally tell, and I think I told you something. It's funny. We just talked for a few minutes before we came on, and it's like, oh, I just told you about that. But I told Win, like, and maybe I mentioned it already, that I think during this summer I did manage to get myself into a lot of. It starts small and then it rolls and rolls and rolls. Yeah, and I think I did manage to fry my brain and eat it so much that really I got to, in September also, to a day where I just had a really big migraine, and I don't usually have migraines, and just throwing up. And I said, it figures when you eat your head off. And I felt really miserable. And somehow my husband, he was really taking nice care of me. And then when he said, you've been feeling bad for a while now. You've been feeling low for a while. And why don't, like, maybe it is time to think about, maybe it is time to try medication. And he suggested that a few times over the last couple of years when I had spells of that. And I was always I took it really the wrong way. Like every time I felt that like an attack and criticism, and I have my ways of dealing with that, and also because it still feels different than in the past. I still had this, but I can do it without, and I had bad experiences with medication. But I don't know, something was just, the feeling was so different that I really felt like he's there with me, that he's not saying it against me. And for the first time in many years, I had just why not? Maybe I will give it a try. So, and we did go to the doctor together, and she listened to me, and then she said there is something which is plant-based, which I recommend. What did you say it was called in English?
St. John's wort.
St. John's wort, yeah. And it doesn't have side effects like other medications. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll just try it for a while. It's for now. It doesn't mean anything forever. Yeah. It's a little, it's funny because I just said something about shame before, but I did have like feelings of shame around this. Like I help people with things. So how come I need to take it? Can't I think my way out of it? This is just a problem that I can't, not by thinking. And when you overthink yourself, sometimes you just need some help. And then the funny thing that I told you was how I started just straight away doing other things. It's like I gave myself permission to just start doing other things. So I don't know anymore what was actually the thing working.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter, right? Because I noticed, right? So I've changed my diet quite a lot in the last 2 months. 2 months ago, I just went like, okay, no more sugar. And at some point, about a month ago, I realized that, wait a minute, there's other things, because of not having sugar and other things that are associated with sugar, I might be having less vitamin C. I might be having less of that. I'm thinking, well, that's probably not good for me. So I put lemon in my water, right? When I have water, put some pieces of lemon in it and squeeze some lemon juice in it. To me, that's no different than St. John's wort. No different whatsoever. But we think it sometimes does. If I have a headache, I will take what I need to take if I think that that's worthy. I'll take ibuprofen or aspirin or something, and well, there's no difference. Or me being tired and thinking, oh, coffee, not tea this time. Like, there's nothing else to it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's funny how in some how sometimes in some cultures or subcultures it's like, oh yeah, taking medication is the thing, and in some subcultures it's like, no, we don't do this and then it becomes a thing instead of just maybe this is the thing for me now, and that's fine.
Yeah, and it's amazing how wise we can be in the moment when we don't live by rules that other people have made up or we have made up innocently.
Oh, by the way, that's a really important point. I think connecting to what you said about finding ways to love them more.
Yeah.
and I'll go over and see what Isa wrote just in a moment. But I thought, I think this is something that takes a moment of courage in a way. Because so many people, especially in these relationship conflicts, you're so caught up with your stories, and this who's right, and they're supposed to be with me, and they're supposed to come to me first, not to them. Who are they that I'll go and show them more love before they show me more love? They should do it my way. And it kind of takes courage to leave all these stories to the side, and either in everything that we do, either come back to love, come back to the moment. It's all the same.
It is. However, at the same time, sometimes courage is what it takes, and sometimes it's just obvious. Because let's look at that for a moment, right? The strategy of I will wait for them to love me before I love them more might leave you very disappointed.
Oh yeah.
So it
And
makes no
drifting
sense.
further apart
Yeah, right. So it's
when
just
you
like,
want to go here.
yeah, but me loving them might not take courage. It might just realizing that that's just a good idea. Now, sometimes it'll take courage, and sometimes it'll just be freaking obvious.
I think it's fun, but it's also some kind of habit. We can look at it as simply as that. As you get used to doing something more, it gets into a habit. You go there, it becomes more your go-to. You don't think about going and brushing your teeth because you've been used to that for years. Other things too, I don't know, after some time without sugar, it becomes easier.
Yeah.
So after some times of courage with showing love first, then it becomes more obvious. No.
Yeah. Cool.
Let's just see for a second some of the comments. Yeah, Isa said, yeah, love them more. So true. And sometimes the last thing I want to do when I get attacked. By the way, in a couple of weeks, Isa is going to be talking here with me
Cool.
about also families, kids, and things that look problematic with kids. And I know that often with kids, it's especially when you're supposed to love them the most and, not climb the tree with, not having yourself climb the tree, not having them climb the tree, and just stay together. It's where you go the highest, and it's harder to go down. So we'll be talking about these things. So if for anyone listening here, this seems like a problem, come over, something about that. Yes, Marlena said, yeah, so true. It's the label attached to it, the meaning we or our thinking are giving to it, the medication or vitamin C, she says. And Yara said, I have to leave, sadly. We'll catch the rest on the recording. This was uplifting and wonderful. Love the more comment. We'll have to change it. After the recording
Yeah.
is ready, we'll change
But
the
there's
name to that.
something else I want to say about that.
Please.
That doesn't just go for love them more. It also goes for ourselves. I have been my biggest critic in my entire life.
Because you're a Virgo.
Might be the only thing I've got in common with the traits of a Virgo, right? But the key thing is me having more compassion with myself has been huge. And I had to notice my innocence, total innocence in me being a human being doing the best I can. And then I was naturally an awful lot more compassionate with myself. Now, most of the time, I don't go around telling myself, hey, love myself, because that's a really good idea. Because
Didn't you write it on your mirror with a lipstick? I heard one coach one, recommended, like writing there.
I've done something similar to other people in the mirror, but not with lipstick. I like literally, you're amazing. I'd write in the mist after I've been for a shower, and then they're going to go. And I know when they go for a shower, then they will see the mark going, oh my Lord, it's written in the mirror. Nice, but until we feel it ourselves, it's nice as opposed to life changing. I noticed my innocence that the only thing ever going on with me was I would think that what I think was real, which is how thought works in human beings. And when I'm in a low mood, low thinking, looks even more real and more personal and more true and more permanent. That's what a low mood does. What I think will seem more permanent, more true, more personal when I'm in a low mood. When I'm in a better mood, I might have the same thought and it'll just go straight through.
Yeah.
So it's not even a thought, it's
It,
mood that makes things, it kind of changes our perspective on what we think in our life outside. I didn't know that. I thought win was a nut job. No, that's moods. That's what happens.
that's what you think.
Oh, I am a nut job, yeah.
I
But
think one of the questions, actually, this is the time, one of the questions we were asked is like, what is the best approach in dealing with a low mood? So you just talked to that, but as you were speaking, I just remembered I did listen to a couple of your podcast episodes. And I remembered you said that you have maybe a piece of paper or somewhere written, you also, when you talked about the mirror thing, with two questions.
yeah,
I think one of them was, what story are you making up now? What was it?
I still have the two post-it notes.
Okay,
They
so
stand in
because
front of me.
maybe like, what's the best approach in dealing with a low mood? Like
Yeah.
I don't think there's one universal thing. Maybe remembering to love yourself and then having something pop up. But I found these questions kind of
Yeah.
helpful.
So here's what I'd say. I think it's difficult to do yourself into a better mood. And when I'm saying difficult, I've yet to find the answer to that. Because the doing wasn't the problem, so the doing won't be the solution. My thinking about the doing might be. That's a different thing then, right? But what I wrote down, right? Two questions that help me when I feel bad, low, anxious, or insecure. And the two questions are, I'm still looking at them right now. One, what have I made up? And I know I make up a lot. And when I'm in a low mood, I definitely have made up a lot. Second, what have I forgotten?
Yeah.
What I forget is that, first of all, I've made it up. And the second thing is that what have I forgotten is that, well, moods change automatically without me doing anything about them. What else have I forgotten? I can still do a pretty damn good job in my life and in my work when I'm even in a low mood and anxious and insecure. Because, as you said, you can have spells of being present to something else, and all of a sudden, all that other stuff just isn't there. It doesn't exist.
I think sometimes my best work, it's never expected, but sometimes, it might come on days when it started really feeling like there's no chance.
Yeah.
But just giving myself the chance of like, okay,
yeah,
I'm allowed to just
it's true.
plunge in, just start moving. I think it's a really good point about you can't, there's no like a prescribed thing or deciding for yourself that this action is going to make you feel well. But however, I think when we're in movement, some kind of a movement, the energy has a better chance of shifting, so it's not that you do that in order for it to change and for it to feel better, but for me, just knowing that I don't have to stay
right
in this, because as I said, my abilities, my possibilities of doing a really good job and just start writing something, just do something, it's still there. And then I do it, and very often I just get caught up in that, like a nice thing to be caught up in, and I kind of forget how I felt before. And that's kind of nice. So
nice to remember, huh?
it wasn't in order to solve the feeling, but I do feel nicer.
Well, again, we wouldn't we? Because we're thinking of something else.
Yeah.
It's kind of obvious. Now, I got a couple of quick little stories on that if we've got time.
Yeah, I'll just look if there's any comments regarding what we just had. Alice said, yeah, regarding the love them more, I used to get into anger and victimhood. Now, when the story attached to it is irrelevant, there is no reason not to love them more. Without a story, there is no problem. So right.
Beautiful.
And it's so nice, like how I see, like when there's this anger or tension, Like it can just dissipate in a couple of hours instead of 2 weeks, 2 days, 2
or
weeks,
20
2
seconds.
years. Yeah, it can be also 20 seconds. Yeah, that's true. And also, yeah, about self-compassion, Alice says, yes, I've been so hard on myself, so cruel and hurt myself more than anyone else has or could. I won't do that to myself anymore. I'm so loving and gentle with myself, which means I automatically do it with others. And Marlene says, thanks for this win. If we all are one, self-love is the key to the love for others. Yeah. And Alice says, what you both sharing is pure gold. And Isa says, today I will take love yourself more. That's
Cool.
wonderful. I think that's a wonderful first step always. And Maria
My eyes
says,
are welling up right now because this is just lovely to hear.
yeah. Maria says, low moods, high moods, what a trap. Thank you for reminding us our innocence. You still have
Such
5.
a trap, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh.
You have 5 minutes for this small story.
Yeah, you know, the one thing to that point, I don't want to have any of my attention on my mood. What a waste of time. There's life going on. Why would I want to have all my thinking about what mood I'm in? I don't want to have that on my mind. Hey, I'm
It's
feeling
also a
high. Let me
habit,
think. Like,
but I think it's really a habit. I think in some, as I said, cultures, mentalities, subcultures, whatever, I think, or when you're younger, it's almost like the in thing is to really look at this. It's almost like a Medusa Greek mythology thing that's there. You're staring at it, you're trying to figure it out, and all that happens is that you're, turned into, what happened with Medusa? Or he turned into stone? Yeah, I wasn't sure for a second.
That's
You
a
can have it with
beautiful
fear,
metaphor.
with stress, with anything else,
Yeah, that's a great metaphor because literally, when we analyze ourselves and how we feel and who am I and all that kind of stuff, the analysis of the separate self, going back to what Melina's just mentioned, she was onto something in my mind that's been huge for me to realize. That when we try and analyze, well, the who am I that's different and what makes me different, the only thing that's happening to me is that I turn to stone. I solidify
Yeah.
my story of who I am that is separate. And that's, in my mind, a horrible idea that I spent 40 plus years doing.
I think we're all going like this now.
Yeah, high five. And then to realize that, look, the only thing that's ever going on here is that we are matter stuff, the physical stuff of us, including hormones, including cells, including calcium in our teeth and enamel in our teeth and calcium in our bones. All of that stuff is matter in form or energy in form in a short time that's coming to life via energy with a consciousness of knowing that we're alive. And whenever all of that ideas of stuff falls, is that the only thing really left is love. What a lovely thing to notice. And I don't really see that most of the time. And only that much of the time I might get a little bit of a hint of it.
And that's worth so much.
Yeah, that changes. Well, it's changed my life. Kind of see that, and I hope it always will, and I hope I will keep seeing more, and I will keep becoming gradually kinder and more compassionate towards myself and other people. I hope I continue to do that.
I'm sure you will.
Continue to be humbled. Yeah.
So just before we break off, let's just see. Okay. Yeah, Maria also said, or it's Maria. We need more encouragers, reminders of the power of love and the fact that we are all the same in the world. Love your conversations. We have enough. We have enough. Know everything. I think actually most like the people watching Kira, I'm sure they are all encouragers, which is kind of great. I just see that, just from, just even the comments, it's obvious that they are.
Yeah, it really is.
And I think if there was just a Guardian article that I saw shared how the world needs now more than technology, it needs love. It just all goes back to that.
Well, and we've been saying that as a species for years, forever. There's a song, isn't there, in the 60s, what the world needs now is love, sweet love. I mean, it's not like a new idea. And it's always going to be true. Because you can't get you're not going to overdose badly on love.
No.
There's no bad side effects to it. So good to know. There is something I wanted to come back to, though. There was a story I was going to mention earlier on, because it goes back to the headline behind this Facebook Live
Mm-hmm.
with you and I today about doing things when we're feeling low. And there were two occasions, funnily enough, in the same client's office, that in the morning of going in, I had some really, really bad news. One was a romantic relationship that was ending, different one from the one in my mid 30s. I'm going back about 5 or 6 years now. And I had a horrible message, an email that actually arrived as I was getting ready in the training room before the participants from the training came in. And then a few years later, I had a text message with some really sad news about a member of the family. And it was amazing to me to notice that I would deliver the training really well. And during lunch, and it was a time when I was doing intermittent fasting at both times, then I wouldn't go for lunch with them. I would stay in the training room, and my mind would go back to the sad news from earlier that day, and I'd feel terrible. And then they'd come back in the afternoon and deliver the training, and training would go great. Come home, drive home, hour and 20-minute drive, cry my eyes out when I got home. Really upset, brokenhearted. And I was still able to do a good job in that time. And I was still okay to let myself be alone and cry when I got home and feel whatever I felt. Lovely thing to know, and to realize that that's possible. That's not a superpower. That is a human ability. As you said, you used the word human capacity earlier on, which I think is a lovely way of saying it. Nice to remember, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think we're coming to the end of our talk. I think there were some nice moments. It's so exciting to see the comments, and because we're talking here, and at the same time there are at least 8 people who came on and participated and commented. Like you feel this connection and relationship that we talked about, and what they are taking out of it and everything, and it's so nice. It kind of really gives a flowing feeling, and I really appreciate everyone coming and saying something. And if you're watching now or the recording, it will be also really nice if you just want to say one last sentence. You can write now even a sentence of something that you're taking with you, even just the word love, whatever. I think it's a kind of like a nice note to end up with. And when I'm really happy that I created this space, because I got to have a conversation with you. It didn't happen for a while now, and I really miss you.
While.
Yeah.
Maybe only the second time this year, I think you and I have talked. And if I was doing the exercise that you suggested from everyone else, if it was a word, it would be thankful. Thankful for the space that you created for you and I to chat. It's like you and I having coffee together again, with other people watching and listening. It's really lovely. And then them also being involved in the conversations. I want to thank the people, grateful for the people to come as well, but also grateful to know what we've seen so far about how well we are made, how brilliantly we are designed, and how a part of that design sometimes makes us forget how well we are made.
Okay, I'll end up here. I just saw from the corner of my eye some really nice comments. You can go and see afterwards that people felt the connection and love and compassion and all that. So it's really
Great.
I'm really grateful for that too. Thankful. Grateful? Thankful? Yeah.
Same thing. Cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank
So
you.
we'll just say bye now for everyone.
Take care.
Diolch.
Pleasure.